The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Brad Marcus, and welcome to another episode of Toilet Side Wrestling Talk. Today's guest hails from Polk, New Jersey, and began wrestling in 2007 when he trained under Claudio Castagnoli and Mike Quackenbush. He's worked for such promotions as Chikara, Pro Excitement Wrestling, GCW, Beyond, New South, Camp Leapfrog, Black Label Pro, to name a few. He's the current Camp Leapfrog champion as well. He's also held the Chikara Grand Championship as well as the PXW Heavyweight Championship. In 2020, he won the 24th annual Super 8 tournament and has shared the ring with the likes of Icarus, Chuck Taylor, Hella Wicked, Orange Cassidy, Solo Darling, Grizzly Redwood, Mike Verna, Killian McMurphy, and I could go on. In 2020, he was also named to the PWI Top 500 list when he came in at number 357. If you don't have IWTV, like I've said before, pause this video, go get it and subscribe, and then come back and then go on and do a search for The Life of a Very Good Professional Wrestler. It's a documentary of the day in the life of my next guest. So let's welcome today's guest, a potential stepdad for me in the future. You may have heard of him as Dasher Hatfield, but today we have a very good professional wrestler. Hey, how are you?
I'm great, especially after watching that. You made me look great. I loved it.
Yeah, totally. I did it just to make you look awesome. I didn't put anything else in there. Do you get like watching yourself perform, or do you get like embarrassed?
Sometimes I enjoy it, and sometimes I hate it. I guess it depends how I did.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sure. That makes sense.
But I mean, no matter what, you always learn from it. So I'm always eager to get my hands on tapes and videos as fast as I can after a match. I always, believe that I needed to be my own, harshest critic.
Sure.
So when I watch myself back, I'm able to see what I like and what I enjoy, or things that I hated that I need to work on and get better at. So I mean, everybody should watch themselves. But yeah, I'd say more so than not, I do enjoy it.
Can you? So say you're on like a card. Can you watch the other matches as like a wrestling fan, like that are on the card?
To me, that's like my gauge on like if you had a good match or not. Like if I watch your match the whole time and I'm just in like wrestler mode and kind of critiquing and learning and observing as a wrestler, I'm like, oh, okay, like maybe everything was good or whatever. But for me, a good wrestling match sucks me in as a fan. And when I catch myself watching and maybe even rooting on somebody in the ring, and you get me out of being a professional wrestler and you get me back to like being 8 and a fan, like that's when I'll go up to people after a match and go, yo, good job. Like nowadays everybody can wrestle, like everybody can do all these great moves and whatever. So it's like just going in and doing all these awesome moves isn't enough to suck me in as a fan. I might still enjoy it. I'm not saying I don't enjoy it. I love seeing some people go in and flip all over the place. That stuff's amazing. But at the same time, like if you get me invested in your match story-wise, or you just get me sucked in and thinking like a fan again, like I'll go out of my way to go over and, hats off and say, way to go.
Can you go up to anyone with critical, like, a take on a match, or you have to wait for someone to come to you and ask for that?
Yeah, like if people ask, and it depends too. Like as you know, I've gotten older in my career, and I do have trainees. Like with people that I've helped train, I always feel, like we've already opened that door, so I'm allowed to come. And because they know I'm coming from a positive place, like I'm not coming to rag on you. I'm coming because I see something that can improve your game big time.
Sure.
I'm not nitpicking. Like, and I would never go over and just say, "Yo, that sucked." I'd go over and say, "Hey, I didn't like this, and maybe here's some suggestions to fix it, or here's how you avoid it next time." But I wouldn't, like somebody I just met, I probably wouldn't go up to. I'd have no problems watching if they asked, but I don't think I'm the type of guy who'd go over and just start nitpicking their match.
Sure.
First day.
Are there people who do that?
I've never had anybody do it to me.
Okay.
Once, and I thought this was super cool, especially because I was early in my career. I had Christopher Daniels come up one time and just he kind of sandwiched his critique. Like he complimented me, and then he's like, "Hey, there was this thing though, but like maybe you could do this," and then he complimented me again. So he was real professional about it. And at the time, I was just pumped he watched my match, and then he cared enough to come say something.
That your match was in his brain, for that moment in time. That's cool. So over the last 2 days, I think I've damaged my children's brains trying to explain to them who I was interviewing tonight. And they're very vulnerable right now. It was kind of, I've never exposed them to like who's on first, so they couldn't conceptualize that your name wasn't like Brad Marcus or, something.
Yeah.
What's Ultimo Breakfast? Was it a character?
Yeah. So initially when I first debuted in Chikara, I was a character called Creator Wrestler, which was based off video games. So fans were able to enter ideas, and I wrestled as like this plain kind of generic guy in a mask for 3 months. And then when the Young Lions Cup would come around, I'd debut as a fan-made idea for the rest of the Chikara season. And then as the new season began, I'd go back to Creator Wrestler. So we went through this whole process 3 different times. The first time I became a giant cow named Moscow the Communist Bovine. The second time I became Ultimo Breakfast, which was kind of like a gladiator, like a Spartan, but somehow breakfast themed. I don't know. People seem to really like that one, and I always hated it. It was always my least favorite. But at the time, I was super green. I was just like pumped to get a spot in such a great locker room, surrounded by like your heroes and your Castagnolis and your Jigsaws and your Hollowickeds. And I was just like, I'll do whatever you ask me to be in this locker room. And then when the third time around is when I finally landed, or we got the idea for Dasher Hatfield, or the fans gave us the idea for Dasher Hatfield. And I'm a huge sports guy. So after being a giant cow and after being a breakfast Spartan, being Dasher Hatfield sounded like the greatest thing in the world to me. And I loved it. I loved being Dasher Hatfield for a long time.
I bet. So we'll get into some of these questions. Are going to be a little disjointed at first, but then we'll go in the right direction. Can you can you have a match with someone that you haven't talked to before the match? The first time you're meeting them is in the ring. Can you have a match like that?
Yeah, I can. I wouldn't say that that's my strength. Like I oftentimes I think get on people's nerves, or like my buddies will make fun of me because I'm like, I'll start talking to you from the minute we walk in the door until the music rings, like, or the music plays or the bell rings, whatever. Like to me, like I think it's lazy to do anything other than that. Like if we have this time together, why not use it to put on the best match we can? That's kind of my perspective on it.
Okay.
But like I've been in the ring with guys who don't like to talk about much or anything at all. And I've survived, and I wouldn't say they're my best matches, but I was always happy with it in the end. Like it's a nerve-wracking thing to do, but usually when I walk back in the curtain, I'm like, all right, I pulled it off. Like we did it.
So it's possible, but it's obviously much better if you're able to talk beforehand or collaborate on something.
I mean, it depends who the person is. Like there are some guys that really thrive in just in being in the moment and feeling what should happen. And the guys who are really good at that are some of the best wrestlers in the world. Like those guys thrive. It does take I feel like it takes you putting yourself out there and kind of having some bad matches to get really good at that. To just put yourself, allow yourself to be vulnerable, get in the ring and see what happens is a scary thing to do. Like even at training, like when we make people do that at training, or when I've had to do that at training, it's scary to do then just in front of your peers.
Sure.
So for the guys and girls who have the guts to get in there on a regular basis to like mold that skill, more power to them. I wouldn't say I was ever brave enough to do that, but I've seen people do that, and they were better for it in the end.
So I learned a lot about you watching The Life of on IWTV. So I have a whole bunch of questions about that. But before I get to that, what's the longest you've gone without going to the gym or working out?
Since I started wrestling, like there was 9 days when I just broke my leg. I made it 9 days before I got down on the floor and just started hammering out push-ups and doing sit-ups and pull-ups I have like a little pull-up thing that hooks on my door, and my wife called me and she came in and yelled at me. She's like, "What are you doing? You're supposed to be sitting in a recliner." But it's like, I've just come too far. And at this point in my life, like if I don't go for a day or two, I get real grumpy and surly, and my wife will make me go. She'll be like, you're kind of being a jerk right now. Like, go. She knows that's my stress reliever and my happy place.
Yeah. So how long is an average workout?
I'd say right now I lift for about an hour, and then it really depends. Cardio wise, depends on like what my schedule's like for the day. The summer's nice for me because I don't work in the summer, so I can get a half hour, 45-minute cardio in after that, and it's cool. Like as far as with my wife and taking care of the kids and all those things. During the school year, it's a little tighter because I'll go in the morning, so I'll get to the gym at 5, and I got to be out the door at like 6:15. So I'll tend to cut everything down a little bit, or maybe run even after work. But I'd say about an hour and a half as usual in and out of the gym door for me.
Okay, and then you go to like during the school year, then you go to work. What age group do you teach?
I teach 10, 11-year-olds, 5th grade.
Oh, okay. And do they know you're a very good professional wrestler?
In rare occasions. So I teach where I grew up, and so I have a lot of friends and family or people I grew up with that know. So sometimes like a kid will come up and be like, "Hey, my aunt said," or "my dad said." I did have a kid this year who was like a little bit of a behavior issue at first, and him and I eventually got along really, really well. So I kind of let him in on the secret. And he would have this year, there were less kids in the room. So during dismissal, I only had 2 kids in the room. So I kind of let him in more than I let most kids.
Okay.
Big Orange Cassidy fan.
Oh, nice.
So I showed him a picture of me and OC, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever." Here, let me turn my camera. I'm holding it the wrong way. That's better. There we go.
Do you ask him to keep it quiet?
No, they just tend to.
Oh, okay.
Like my couple kids who've known. Well, and I think wrestling's either like a love-hate thing.
Okay.
So you either love wrestling and you think that's the coolest thing in the world, or you hate wrestling and you don't think it's cool at all.
Yeah.
So like one kid might be like, "Yo, do you know that he does this?" And the kid's like, "I don't know. Does he play in the NBA? I don't give a crap."
Yeah, totally. Our teacher's a superhero.
It never tends to like spread like wildfire throughout the school. I did have 1 or 2 occasions when I was wrestling with a mask on that students were at shows and had no idea.
Oh, wow.
They were watching me wrestle.
And what about your work colleagues? Are they aware or interested?
Yep, they all know. Like I've never kept it a secret, which was always a positive thing about the kind of wrestler I've always been. Like you don't see me cussing or sticking up middle fingers or doing things that like would get me in trouble at work. So I always try to keep myself on the up and up that way. Colleagues and just people in general, especially since I broke my leg, so many people are like, "What?" Like random people come up, "What happened to you? What happened to you?" And so being able to explain like that you're a professional wrestler is always kind of an awkward conversation, and then they hit you with the same like 10 questions.
Oh,
like,
really?
Is this real, or what's this, or how do you, the best ones always their favorite ones always, how do you know who wins is always their favorite. But my colleagues know. A couple of them have come and watched me before. But yeah, I'm real fortunate at work. I work with a lot of great people. I have great administrators. So everybody's real cool about it.
It's awesome. I've always wanted to ask a teacher this, especially a male teacher. Does teaching make you a better father? Like, does it give you more patience, or is it the other way around?
No, I guess it's it could be either or. Like one thing about being a teacher, especially I teach younger kids, is I get to see a lot of home lives that aren't the best. And so it makes me have an appreciation for, how great of a mother my wife is. And it does help me have a little more patience, just knowing that, like, I want my kids to have the best upbringing they can. So it kind of helps out in those ways. And it is beneficial. Like my daughter and I, we do something through the school where we deliver Christmas trees every year. So she's old enough now. She's gone with me the last 2 years. And just like, I want her to have an appreciation for what she has. She's been brought up, in our little middle-class world. And so I want her to see kind of what other kids have to appreciate what she's going to have. Because I grew up like my kids. I grew up in the projects, and I had food stamps and all those things. So I'm very appreciative for where I've landed in life and the people who supported me. I worked hard so my kids would never have to know like life like I had it. But I do want them to know it's out there, because I want them to appreciate, that we can take them to go get ice cream if they want ice cream. Appreciate we're going to Disney World in a couple weeks. Like, they just think that's normal, and I want them to know like it's not.
Has
like,
your daughter, a lot of
kids who don't have those things?
Has your daughter watched the finished episode?
Yeah, we all watched it as a family.
Okay. And was she happy with that? Because I realized that I liked the episode when, like, your daughter was performing, and I'm like, oh, please don't screw up, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, like, I'm invested in this already.
You have no idea that, especially the beam gets me every time, because it's just like one little topple and they're going down.
I don't know how anyone does it.
Like, I feel like my heart stops the whole time they're up there, and I'm just like, you can do it. She didn't fall off that thing one time this season. I was pumped about it.
That's amazing, because I don't know how someone can even leave their feet on there and land. Like, it seems like a disaster waiting to happen. But that's what I was like. Wow, this is really good.
The older girls will get up on that thing and backflip and land on it again. And I'm just like,
it's crazy.
I don't even know how you learn to do that without breaking all your limbs.
Yeah, well, because they're usually like 2 pounds, and they kind of float in the air.
They just float. But no, she loved it. She was definitely like a little she got in her little shy mode, like, oh, that's me on there. And it was cool, because that was the first time she ever won first place overall. Actually, the only time she's ever done it. So it was just kind of lucky that was when I had the GoPro and when we were filming. And that's a memory that as a family we get to cherish for forever now.
It's amazing that you have that on, of video footage and then produced so well. That's gotta be cool for the
John Philip is the guy who put it all together, and he rocked it. Like, he was great from start to finish as far as including us and everything, and asking questions and asking our opinion, and then like just the way he pieced it all together, we couldn't have been more happy.
It's amazing. Do you ever find that you have to repay your wife? Not literally.
All the time.
All the time?
Yeah. So like my life basically consists of, and I am extroverted and a social butterfly, and I still have friends from my childhood that were real close, and we make friends in the new neighborhood. But like for me, it's because she's allowed me to wrestle. I've been wrestling almost 16 years, and we've been together 20. So she's been with me the whole journey, and it's just like, every ounce of energy I can put into the house and family, like I feel obligated to do that, because she allows me to go as often as she does. So for me, it's really just gym home wrestling as much as like I miss, like things my friends may go do, or other events, because gym home and I guess in that home gym wrestling, those are my priorities. And I feel I owe it to not only her but to the kids as well, to like, daddy gets to go wrestle, so I'm not going to then come home on my time and disappear again and go do something else.
Or take a nap.
Yeah, but she leaves on Saturday. She's going away for 2 days with her sister. I sent her away for taking care of me since my leg's been broken.
That's great.
So she's done all the taxi driving for the kids and their sports, and for me for doctor's appointments and work and everything else. So it's like, hey, like, I'm getting around a little better now, so I can take care of the kids. Yeah. And so it's just like, hey, go disappear for 2 days, go have a great time. There's a massage scheduled. Like, yeah. So, I mean, I owe her, I know I owe her, and I don't think I could ever repay. So I think I'll be indebted for a lifetime. But
so is it a secure feeling knowing that, like, she's been with me since the start, and I don't have to worry that, like, she was with me for X number of reasons. You know, she was with
Right.
me because she loved me, regardless of everything else. Do you ever feel guilty about, about leaving?
I feel
Because that,
guilty all the time. Like, and it gets harder as the kids get older because they're
yeah,
more vocal about it. So it does get harder. But at the same time, like they're kind of on both sides. We're like, it's really cool you do that, but we do miss you. But at the same time, I feel, and I've had this conversation with a lot of wrestlers as they become dads. Like, I feel it's important for me to set the example for my kids. Like, if you want something in life, you bust your tail until you get it, until you have that thing you want. Or until it's impossible for you to chase it anymore. So I'm at a point where it's like if I feel like if I quit, then I'm showing them, that you can quit, and that's not the example I'm going to set for them. So like I do try to minimize how long I'm away, or like how often I travel. Like I won't travel 4 weekends in a month, like maybe 2.
Does your wife ever say, "Listen, you can't work 3 weeks from now"? For a certain.
It depends. Like if we have something we have to do, like if there's a wedding or something we got to go to, or we plan something with the kids, but that's not really her telling me. It's kind of just, I understand we're a family and we have to do these things. But she's the best, man. Like I got nothing bad to say. She supports me, even though she's not like a huge wrestling fan by any means, but I think she knows how important it is to me. So it's like kind of a mutual, like, hey, I get it. Go do what you love, but at the same time, like, oh, there's my daughter walking around now.
And I saw, I saw a 4-legged creature. There's the dog.
Dog back there. Let me see. I'm trying to get them. There they are.
Yeah. Trying to get airtime. So, do you ever get to go out like with just your wife?
Yeah,
like on a date or a vacation.
Like all 4 of our parents are still alive and healthy and well and love spending time with the kids.
Amazing.
And somewhat local. I think my dad lives the furthest away, and he's only about 15 minutes away.
Oh, God, that's awesome.
Yeah, so the grandparents are always happy to take the kids. I have a cousin who I grew up with. Actually, we started wrestling together years ago. His family loves taking the kids. My sister-in-law will take and they love going. They have a lot of family that love them and take care of them. So if we ever need a date night, actually, I think we're getting one on Friday.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we have enough family that are not only like willing to take the kids, but want to take the kids. They want to spend time with them.
Do you ever use summer, winter, or spring break to go on like family vacations, or do you wrestle those times?
We always go on a vacation like in the summer.
Okay.
Actually, we always go on 2 because her family, we always go to the beach with them. I think we've been this will be our 21st trip to the beach with them, just her and I. Since we've been together, we've done it every year. But her parents are real cool, and they pay for that. So we just go down like the Jersey Shores. We can drive; it's local. But then since we've had the kids, we always go do something. So like last year, we were in Outer Banks. This year, we're going to Disney. But yeah, it's always in the summer. We may plan like little like day or one night trips when we get breaks from school, but never anything lengthy.
So you live where you grew up. Where was that? That's in New Jersey?
Actually, I grew up in New Jersey, but I live in PA now. But just kind of like right over the river, not far away.
Oh, okay. And do you go into New Jersey often?
Yep. I still teach in New Jersey. So.
Oh, okay.
And my parents and my wife's parents both still live over there. So
did you have like a big family, like a bunch of siblings or small family?
My family's super confusing. I was an accident, my mom always said, but she's like, "But we loved you when you got here."
Yeah, my youngest son's one.
Yeah, there you go. You love him.
That's just what happened.
There you go. So my dad was married and had 2 daughters. My mom was married and had 2 daughters also. Then they both divorced, met 10 years later. I'm 10 years younger than my closest sister.
Okay.
They dated for a couple months, and here I was.
Oh, wow.
But dad's still the greatest. Like I think they split when I was about 2 months. But dad every weekend like clockwork, pick me up on Friday, drop me off on Sundays.
Awesome.
Like I'm not a good dad on accident. Like I had one. I learned from one.
Was he? So my dad, same thing. He most weekends he'd pick us up Friday and take us home Saturday. But was your dad the fun dad versus like Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, did
like,
you know
it
you're always
depends.
doing something fun and that pissed your mom off?
Like, I mean, we did a lot of fun things with my dad, but I wouldn't say he was necessarily fun. Like, he was kind of
Okay.
straight laced.
Oh,
So
okay.
dad was a correction officer, and was kind of really straight laced, and mom was more of like an old hippie type,
Okay.
and like, so mom was more fun, but we didn't have any money, so we really couldn't do anything fun. But
Sure.
I was kind of allowed, and like, one positive too about growing up in the projects is the projects are filled with kids.
Hmm.
So like, I played and I had friends and still have friends that I keep in touch with. But there were kids all over the place, and mom just kind of let me do my thing. So I had a lot of fun while with mom, but it wasn't necessarily we were going places.
Hmm.
And then with dad, dad was a correction officer, and like, my older sisters were grown up, and so he basically was like a single guy and made okay money, and then just had me on the weekends. So like, if we went and did fun things, like, it was with dad. Like, I remember being like 12, dad took me to Disney World, or we'd go to a lot of Yankee games.
Oh, cool. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So you had a good relationship
Yeah, we still do.
and
We still do.
with your mom as well?
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. Now, were you an athletic kid?
Yep.
Um,
I played 3 sports a year until I was like 15, and then once I got to high school, I just played baseball after that.
why just baseball?
Like, I think I grew late, so football, like, as a freshman, like, I felt like I was looking around all these grown men and I was still a boy.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it didn't work out. Basketball, like, I was just never good at it. I actually tried out as a freshman. I didn't make the team.
Okay.
As a kid, I wrestled until I was about 11 or 12. And then I switched over to basketball, which I should have never done. It just looked like more fun to me. But I was a good wrestler, and basketball looked like fun. So I played. And as like a kid level, I played okay. But like, I was all defense. I played basketball like a wrestler. If you had the ball, I could take it. But once I had it, I didn't know what to do with it.
Sure.
So it was just like, take the ball, give it to my teammates. I was the hustle guy. Yeah, I tried out as a freshman in high school and I didn't make it. And then I was just like, all right. And I just played baseball from that. But I played baseball till pretty much till I started wrestling, until I was about 21.
Now, who exposed you to wrestling for the first time? Was it a family member?
I would say that's my cousin Rob that I started wrestling with back in like 2000. Well, I got trained first in 2005.
Okay.
And then once I was trained, he actually already had a daughter by that point. He was a real young father. And he didn't have the money to get trained. So this isn't probably the most up and up way to get started, but I went and got trained. And then as soon as I like graduated, we rented ring time, and then I trained him.
Oh,
So
wow.
like, it was just like, we knew we had to do this together, but he still to this day, I'd say he's a much bigger wrestling fan than I am. I just like to wrestle more than he did, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Did it help you become a better wrestler, training him on what you learned?
definitely, because it was just more ring time. So I would, like, I initially started at a school called Pro Excitement Wrestling with 2 guys. Their names were Marshall Law and Lovebug. They're 2 local guys out of the Allentown area, Lehigh Valley area.
Okay.
And they introduced me to Quack. So I didn't necessarily start training at Chikara. But by that point, I was training at Chikara. So I'd go to Chikara Tuesdays, and then we'd have ring time on Wednesdays. And I would basically just like reteach all the stuff Mike just taught me. But like, for me, it was great because I was able to slow it down, figure it out piece by piece. And at the same time, I was still like, I'd kind of gotten Marshall Law and Lovebug in on what I was doing, and they're the nicest guys in the world. So they even came in for no money and helped train like my cousin, and it was another guy, Joey. There was 2 guys.
Okay.
So it ended up being a team effort, but definitely it helped me out a lot, just because it's the same with teaching. It's something I do with my students, right? Like, the ultimate level of understanding is to be able to teach something. So like, when my students understand something, I pair them with other students. So here you go, you know it now, go teach it. And it was kind of that experience for me, to where it was like, hey, I learned it. Now I get to teach it and really fully understand all the aspects of it. But super beneficial, I think, for me.
Did you do you remember when you decided that you were going to pursue, like, find a trainer?
Yeah, I could pinpoint the exact moment.
Oh, let's hear it.
So right out of high school, I had gone to college and failed out. Like, and I have a master's degree now, so it wasn't intelligence, but laziness more than anything else.
Yeah.
So I'd gone for 3 semesters, and then I came home, and wrestling was the only, like, I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted. So I had no motivation. Wrestling was the only thing I knew that I was like, I would work at. Like, I was like, I can, apply myself to this.
Mm-hmm.
But I did make myself a deal that like wrestling's a crapshoot. You could bust your tail for years and not get anywhere.
Yeah.
So for me, it was I'll save the money and go to wrestling school if I go back to college. So it was kind of like a deal I made with myself.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I did. So I took one semester off to save money.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I just worked, saved the wrestling money. And I also was like, and I still live by this, like, I think professional wrestling, you know, I always took that word professional very serious. So I worked out for a whole year before I even would walk into a school. I was like, I'm not walking into a school. And I grew up in the early 90s where every wrestler, you know, looked like the Ultimate Warrior or Hulk Hogan or Rick Rude.
Sure.
So I was like, I'm not walking in there not in the best shape I've ever been in.
Yeah.
So I took that year to go to get myself in the better shape. And then I showed up at wrestling school. A lot of it for me, I think the final push over the edge was the ECW documentary that WWE put out.
Oh, that was awesome.
ECW. My dad would take me to ECW shows at Ag Hall in Allentown when I was a kid at like 13, 14, 15.
Oh, cool.
And that documentary where it was just all about brotherhood and it was all about everybody working together to make this show. This guy printed the T-shirts. This guy drove the ring around. This, like, I didn't understand that part of wrestling and I loved it. And so that was my goal when I first started. Wasn't to go to WWE, although I wish that was my goal earlier in life. But my goal is to just find that special thing. And for a long time, I did. Like Chikara, we were that for a long time. So like I always check that box off my list of things I wanted to do in wrestling, because for a long time we were that special company and it was the little engine that could. It was everybody on the inside had a job and everybody did something and everybody helped out. And we were, you know, carving our niche in wrestling at the same time. But yeah, so for me, it was watching that documentary, I think was like the final like push over the mountain where it's like, all right, ball's rolling. I'm going to wrestling school.
That's amazing. So say I want to become I want to start training.
Yep.
What do I do? Do I go on the internet to find a trainer? How do you do that?
I guess and I guess step one would be find a trainer that you think best suits you. What kind of wrestler do you want to be, or what kind of skills? Like eventually learn everything. Like don't paint yourself into a corner. Be well rounded. And I didn't do that. Like I went into wrestling Google. I went to Yahoo probably at the time. Yeah. Found the closest place to me, and that's where I went. I got real fortunate that they introduced me to Quack, because then once I met Quack, I was like, oh man, I want to know what that guy knows. Like you could tell right away he was just a different level of a trainer. So I think step one would be maybe even reach out to wrestlers. I've had a couple people. I very specifically remember Adam Cole reaching out to me before he started training, just to say like, hey, like what trainers do you recommend? So I think I think his career worked out all right. I think he's doing okay.
He's doing all right.
So maybe even reaching out to some wrestlers for recommendations. Say, hey, this is kind of what I want to do. This is what the idea I have in my brain. Like, can you point me in a good direction? Right? I mean, if you're local to this area, I would send anybody to Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger's a great trainer. I've trained with him. Cheeseburger's even the guy who started after me, and every time I'm there, I learn tons from him.
He's right here. Still Cheeseburger
in there.
Right there.
Cheeseburger's that dude. But yes, I mean, if you can, like, hit up a couple wrestlers in her DMs and just say, hey, I want to get started. Like, can you point me in the right direction? That might even be
I would never become a wrestler. My muscles go down, like that. But I was like, I always wondered, like, what if I wanted to? What you start? So the first day of like formal training, had you ever been in a wrestling ring before?
Just once.
Okay.
So my cousin and I went down to the building. It was a place called Carson's Pro Wrestling World, 1313 Linden Street. It's where the original Chikara Wrestle Factory actually started. I think I showed up like a couple months after they had moved to the ECW arena.
Okay.
But we got there, and there was a ring in the back, and it didn't belong. The guy who owned the store, his name was Bud Carson. And the ring wasn't his, and he didn't tell us that, but he was like, hey, if you want to give me $50, you can rent it out for 2 hours or something. So I remember we paid, I think it was $50 to just get in the ring and like see what it felt like.
Did you like go off the top rope?
What'd you say?
Did you like go off the top rope, like hit the rope?
Maybe the middle. I'm still not comfortable on a top rope. Like I could do it. Like I'm over the fear of it, but it's not my favorite thing to do. Sure. Maybe the middle rope. I might have climbed up to the top rope and went, okay, I can climb down now.
Yeah, exactly. So you trained for a while. Who tells you that you're ready for your first match, or is it you tell someone, I think I'm ready for my first match?
Nope, it's your trainers. It's your
Okay.
trainers. So initially for me, it was martial law and love bug. I started training in August, and April 1st, 2006 was my first match.
Oh, wow.
So it's about 8 months of training, and I did really well the training. I think being an athlete helped. It made me coachable. It made me pick up on things quickly. I still remember to this day, leg drop was like the only thing that like took me weeks to learn. I think it was just a fear of landing directly on my butt.
Okay.
Leg drop was the hardest thing I think for me to ever learn in wrestling out of the butt. But yeah, there was like and luckily for me, there were three of us that started together, so they kind of prepped us all to debut at the same time. And then I kind of went through it again when I started training with Mike, just because that's an entirely different level of performing. It's not
Yeah.
a local little show. There are standards. You have to be so good. And I don't know if I was necessarily good enough to be there when I did start. But when Mike said, "Hey, I got this idea for you," I was ready to go.
And do you remember like walking to the ring for the first time?
Yep.
Were you nervous?
Definitely nervous. I remember there was probably 100 people, and we'd already talked about like I have a lot of family and friends still. I think of the 100 people, I think I sold 70 of the tickets.
Oh, jeez, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and well, I did. I told the promoter. I said, "Look, don't think I'm doing this every time. Like it's gonna go down. I'm curious what I've been doing with my time and what this all is." But once they see it, they're not all wrestling fans, so they're not all gonna come flying back here next show. Like I can't promise you. And so the next show, maybe I sold 30, and then 10, and then my mom
went away for everyone.
Then my mom came. But yeah, I remember being nervous. I still remember the match. The thing I remember most clearly is when I was done, I looked over and my dad was in the locker room, and I was just like, "Oh no! Like you're not allowed back here. This is where the magic happens, Dad. You can't." And he was just like, thought he could just walk back wherever he wanted to go.
Oh, wow.
He's like, "I just wanted to tell you congratulations," and nobody really got mad, but I was more just like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, it's my first show. There's protocol.
You got to earn your spot to be on this side.
Yeah, seriously. Otherwise, everyone would be back there.
But he just wanted to give me a hug and say good job, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. Were your parents on board? I'm sorry, I'm jumping back to this. When you decided you were to start training to be a pro wrestler? I didn't
tell them. Only my wife knew, or girlfriend at the time. But I didn't tell my friends because I knew like having just failed out of school and then making this kind of terrible life decision in most people's minds.
Sure.
I think I pleasantly surprised everybody, with the success I've had or how long I've been doing it. But I just think everybody would have laughed or been like, "That's stupid" or "That's dumb." So I didn't tell anybody until that first show was happening. And then finally I was just like, "Hey Mom, this is what I'm doing. Can you please buy a ticket?"
So some people, parents included, had no idea what you were doing with your.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
Was that hard to keep to yourself?
I don't remember it being real hard.
Okay.
I knew I just wasn't ready to handle what people would say, I guess, until I felt like once I had completed training, then it was something I could be proud of.
Peter Parker had a similar story with that in Spider-Man. Letting people know that he actually had superpowers. But we'll actually get to that in a little bit, actually. How does one go about creating their moveset?
Something that I learned early on in my career that was advice that I was always stuck with me was, first off, you want to pick things that you can nail 10 out of 10 times.
Okay. Oh.
So I remember I had this move where I would slingshot myself over the ropes and pick a guy somehow or whatever. And occasionally I would mess it up. And somebody said, "Why do you keep that?" There's enough things you can choose that you can nail 10 out of 10 times. And so that's one thing is look at what you're good at.
Okay.
And pick those things. I feel like early in my Chikara days, I hurt myself by trying to do fancy aerial things because I thought that's what I needed to do in a lucha company.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were your fire ants and your Ophidians and your quacks and all these people who fly around like ballerinas and they're graceful and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it's maybe I could pull it off, but it's going to be clunky and ugly man's lucha.
Yeah.
So like, why would I try to do these things when either before my match or after my match, they're going to see somebody do it better?
Mm-hmm.
So like
Makes
that
sense.
allowed me to understand like, hey, look myself in the mirror or watch my matches. We talked about that a little bit already. And look at the stuff I do better than anybody else. That's the stuff I should showcase, right? Doing something somebody else does and not doing it as well as they do isn't going to help me stand out.
Yeah.
And so that's where I just slowed myself down. I really worked at my strength and being in the gym because I felt like that would make me stand out. And I just picked moves that when I watched myself do them, or when I heard the reaction the crowd gave me, that that was positive.
Then you knew that worked.
Those are the right things. With that said, like, don't be afraid to throw some dumb ideas out there every once in a while and see what happens. You might surprise yourself.
Now, do you have to be aware of what everyone else is doing so you're not doing the same thing? Like, do you have to like constantly juggle that?
Yeah, like especially if you're new to a promotion. Like, there's nothing worse than like you show up. I know a guy who showed up to Ring of Honor, did I think it was Kenny King's finish in his little like dark show match he got. Had the guy kick out of it and obviously didn't get called back. So like if you're new to a company, especially a bigger company, like you should probably be familiar with the product and do your homework.
Sure. Wow.
But like, again, like for me as a guy, like I might get flown somewhere to wrestle on a smaller show and there's a lot of people I don't know of. Like, I've never run into an incident where guys come up and been like, you did my move. But
yeah.
It probably is my responsibility to be aware or ask around.
How often do you add to your moveset?
I guess you always are looking for something new. Like I do, I get like bored. I'm not really complacent type. Like, I got really good advice from Bobby Fish once where he's like, no, stick to your moveset, but like always find innovative ways in and out of those moves. So I stuck to that for a while, and I still do believe in that. But every once in a while, it's like I just need something new.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's accidental. Like sometimes I'll be at training and I'll see something or I get an idea. To be honest, I get a lot of ideas. Like if I'm having a hard time sleeping, like I have trouble sleeping sometimes. So sometimes my mind just starts thinking about wrestling. And like, and I also know if I don't, I have a little notepad I keep in my phone.
That's my next question. If I don't
put it in the notepad right away, I'm going to forget it by the morning.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it just when the ideas come to you and you just add them in, you work them in, and then it goes back to picking your moves. It's like, hey, I got these ideas. It's great. I'm going to go try it in training to see if the idea even works. And if it works there, then I'm going to try it in the ring. And if I get a great reaction, or even if sometimes it doesn't get a good reaction, but it entertained me. So like, I'll find, like, I take that as a challenge then to find a way to get a good reaction out of it.
Sure. Is it stressful? I mean, probably not now, but like early on, like trying to get yourself booked?
I was really, really lucky, I think. Like being in a Chikara locker room, I had guys like Bryce Remsburg, guys like Hollow Wicked, who, and we paid this forward then with, when we got worked our way up the chain a little bit to where they'd be like, hey, we're going here. Do you want a spot in the car? Like, you're not going to get paid. Okay. You're going to do a lot of the crappy driving shifts, but like there's a spot in the car for you and a moment on, a spot on a show. And then maybe sometimes you would get paid a little bit. But I was really fortunate to be in a locker room where everyone else there was further along the pecking order than I was, and that they were really good people. And they'd say, hey, are you free Saturday? Come jump in the car.
Were you nervous the first time you jumped in the car?
Yeah.
Not nervous that things going to happen to you, but like, you're with, guys who are at a different level than you are.
Yep. And I was always taught early on, like, hey, that's where you learn. Like, you're in the car for 10 hours with these people. They're going to start talking about wrestling, or if you have the guts, you're going to start asking questions about wrestling. So definitely nervous, but my daughter and I invented this word. It's nerve-sighted. You're just nervous and excited. Oh, sorry. She said she invented that word. It wasn't us as a team, but definitely like nerve-sighted. Like, you're pumped for it. You're excited to hit the road. Like, that's definitely like
it's like a positive nervousness.
Yeah, and some wrestlers never get to that point where they're invited on 10-hour car rides. So like, I was excited just like to go wrestle in a different state or in Canada or wherever. And then like I get in the car with, a Claudio Castagnoli, or I get in the car with Quack for the first time, or get in the car with Ultra Mantis or whoever it is. Like, yeah, I'm just going to sit here and shut up and listen and do my part.
Ask, were you quiet, like, the first times you were riding along?
Probably quiet for me, like not silent, but quiet for me. I'm the talker, so like I would chime in when I felt it was my turn to, or somebody asked me a question, or if a question popped up, like I asked it.
Do you look back at those rides as like being like fun?
I miss them like crazy right now.
Oh, really? Do you wish you could go back and do them over, and everything else would be the same?
Yeah. Sure. Like just like, and in a while, especially in my later years in Chikara, I had a car. There were 4 of us in a car that got along really great and kind of had the same, like, I'd say routines more than anything else. Like we would leave 4 hours earlier than we were supposed to, just so we could like stop at a gym, just so we could stop and have a sit down meal. Like we all kind of had the same itinerary, because like sometimes I'd felt like I'm being a pain in the ass if I want. Oh, sorry, I'm cursing now. Being a pain in the butt if I'm like, hey, can we stop at a gym? Or can we leave early to stop at a gym? And some guys are like, no.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, my favorite car rides were those where it was like, there's a core group of 4 of us, and we probably for 2 or 3 years traveled together a lot. And those were my favorite car rides.
Now, please don't provide any details. I don't want to get you in any sort of trouble. Were there things that happened on these rides that you can't tell your wife?
Not really. Like,
okay.
No, like I'm faithful to my wife. That's
no. I don't mean like that.
Yeah.
I'm saying like mischief.
I mean, nothing really. Like guys being guys sometimes, but like we went out to a bar. I was like, hey, we went out to a bar. Like I enjoy beer, but no, nothing.
Nothing crazy.
My buddy might say tell a story or something. Like especially like some of the single guys might tell you a story or something. Like I'm not going to come home and share those details with her.
Yeah. But like no one like stole a goat and then shaved it. Like
I would tell her that. That would be funny.
Yeah, it'd be funny. Totally.
She's still all these years later. Like if I go anywhere, wrestling road trip, or I go somewhere with my friends, like it's always I love you and don't get arrested.
Don't get arrested. Okay, well that's actually really good advice. Does she come along anymore? I mean, does she come to your matches?
If they're local, she'll come. Out of all the years wrestling, she only ever did 1 road trip with me, and it wasn't far. It was to Baltimore, so it was like 3.5 hour drive. But we got a hotel for the night and had a nice dinner and did the whole thing. But like she kind of gets like there's nothing exciting for her on a wrestling trip. Like coworkers or her friends at first, like, oh, you're going to Chicago? Can Megan go? I'm like, she could come, but we're gonna drive 12 hours there. We're gonna go to the building right away. We're gonna maybe get some beer and pizza afterwards. Go to the hotel. If there's a hotel, if we're not driving back home that night, like, there's not like it's not glamorous. Like you get to go to cool places, but it's rare that you have time to go do the cool things.
Is she, after all these years of wrestling and marriage, is she impressed by you at all anymore? Nope. Like as far as like my husband's a pro wrestler, it's like a superhero. No. Nope. At what point did that happen?
It never happened.
Oh no, but I mean, she was never impressed.
No.
Okay, and she's still with you. That says a lot about her. That's a good thing.
Oh, she's a great person. Even like as I got like more muscular, I'd always be like, "Babe, look at this muscle."
Yeah.
Nope.
Like you never like hop out of the shower or whatever, or be at the beach and like you say to her, "Listen, you could look. I could look like all those guys over here. Look at me. You should be grateful you have this."
She might keep it to herself.
Okay.
Happy that like that I stayed in shape, because I remember telling her like years ago when we first started dating, I was like, honey, by 30 I'm going to be chubby and bald, just so you know. And luckily my hair stayed, so I still got that.
That's another big thing.
That was out of my control, but it's still there, and I'm 38 now, so I hope it's
superficial reasons. She's doing great. Like as far as like you're her like arm candy. All right, I'm going to ask you one last wrestling related question. And this is kind of, what's the best thing that it's brought to your life, wrestling?
My work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I had failed out of college, and then wrestling was the first thing I knew I would want to work at. Like I was really a lazy kid outside of sports, I was always that kid in class who could have did a lot better than he did. Even then, when I got my teaching degree and went back and was like subbing, and a lot of the teachers were like, "What are you doing here? Why are you here? How did you get here?" So for me, it's work ethic. Wrestling has taught me 100%. If I want something in life and I work at it and I sacrifice for it, and I fulfill all the obligations, I could get whatever it is I want. So like I said, I went from failing out of college to not only like earning 3 degrees, but like my master's, my GPA was a 3.8. I got my bachelor's, my GPA was like a 3.6, in between a 3.6 and a 3.7. Wow. So it was like I got straight A's for the first time in my life, I think, while working towards my bachelor's. But that now that I get to see that in my kids, especially my daughter, like she's a little workhorse by every sense of the word. She gets straight A's in school. She is at gymnastics all the time. I wouldn't say was born into her, but through observation, she sees how hardworking her mother and I are. And she doesn't realize there's an alternative to that.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, if you want something, you do the work, whether it's fun or not, and then you get the thing you want at the end. So yeah, more than anything else, I'm thankful, whether wrestling works out in the long run for me or not, like I've got that work ethic for the rest of my life, and hopefully both my kids will as well. And I'm forever grateful for it.
When you got your degrees, could you recognize and be proud of yourself, like what you accomplished?
Yep.
Okay, like not having someone tell you, like saying, like, "Wow, I just did something really crazy from what I started out as."
Especially the master's degree, just because I never imagined that for myself or saw me doing that. And then when I did it, and the amount of work it was, like, it was an insane amount of work, and that was probably. So I was doing that like while my wife was pregnant and after. So it was like the busiest time in our real life. And it was also probably the most traveling I've ever done as a wrestler too. Like I was gone all the time. So it was just like an insane amount of work. So when I was done, like I remember walking out after doing my little dissertation thing at the end, or like whatever I had to do with my big whatever report thing, and just like putting my hands up and just like taking a deep breath, realizing I was never going to have to take another class again or write another paper again. And then like I'll have coworkers be like, "Hey, are you going to go back and get your administration certification to become a principal?" And I'm just like, "No way, ever, never."
Totally.
I'm not taking any more classes. But I was really proud of myself. Maybe like the associates and the bachelors, maybe not so much, just because like I guess with failing out, like it kind of tainted it for me. And it was just like, all right, I did it, but just to do it. I didn't really know why I was doing it. So the master's degree, though, super proud of myself.
Yeah, I imagine. That's amazing. Before I let you go, can I ask you 5 non-wrestling related yes or no questions?
Sure.
Okay. Would you ever consider adding another Very to your name? And what would those circumstances be? A very good professional wrestler.
I would say no. Okay. Because I feel like if there's like whenever anybody asks me why I'm just a very good professional wrestler, I'm like, because I don't do it for a career. Like I don't do it for a living. I do it because I love it. I mean, I'd love to do it for a career. That would be awesome as well. That's the goal. But I always felt like if I ever had that transition to being a career wrestler, then I can change my name to a great professional wrestler.
Oh, okay. Cool. So there's a plan in there.
Maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, for now, very good is good enough.
It works. Since you turned 18, your 18th birthday, have you ever lied to a child?
Yes.
Okay. You don't have to tell me what. All right. For $9.2 million, would you ever have a tail grafted onto where like a human's tailbone is?
Yes.
Like a monkey, like you could hold things with it and.
Absolutely. Somebody's giving me $9.2 million. I'm in.
Okay, cool.
I have 2 tails.
All right, I'll write that down. Have you? This is your 4th question. You're almost done. You're doing great. Have you ever lived through a pandemic?
I just did, I think.
Perfect. And then finally, is there any circumstance that you could see where you would drink vodka before 6 a.m.?
I drank tequila before 6 a.m. before, but vodka probably not.
So there is a circumstance. Okay, tequila works too. All right, you passed all 5 questions. Great. I felt like I was a teacher now. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight and coming on and talking to me. How's the leg?
How's what?
Your leg.
My leg is great. I just went and had x-rays last week. I mean, it's still not working.
Yeah.
The doctor says everything is healing. I am down to my boot, and sometimes if it gets a little sore, a crutch.
Okay. Is
So
there
I'm walking around, no more scooter.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I still have a boot. I don't have it on right now because I'm just sitting here. So I get to
Are you
walk around
hitting
with
all? Are you hitting
What's
all the milestones? Are you hitting all the milestones the doctors are giving you? Like,
Yep.
at 6 weeks to do this. And have you asked about getting back in the ring yet, or is that?
The doctor knows what I do, so I know he knows, and he'll tell me when the time is right.
Right.
I think my first concern is when I can get back to running, because if I can start running again, once that gets comfortable, then I'll get back into training again. And once I get confident there, then back in a ring. Because if something's going to go wrong, I'd rather it go wrong on training and not on a show. I was still real disheartened when I did get hurt. Like, it was the finals of the Super 8. Like,
Yeah.
everybody deserved to see a great match that night, and I broke my leg and didn't get to give it to everybody. But yeah, so as of right now, the bone is healed, and so it's just all the ligament damage that I did, and a matter of retraining my ankle to walk and all of those good things. That's what I got coming up next.
Well, it's going to be a good story when by the time you get back to the ring. So that's really great. All right. Well, thank you again. Stay safe, stay healthy. I will look forward to seeing you back in the ring when you do. And take care. I really appreciate your time.
See ya.
Take care.